following announcement has been paid for by the Celtic World Order.
Hello, good evening, welcome back to Celtic World Order. I'm always Steve O'Martin. It's an absolute pleasure to welcome back here to the channel for a wee breaking news video, if you will, because as we always try to do, as we always try to endeavour here at Celtic World Order, if there's something that's breaking, if there's news, if there's a story worth talking about, then where possible, we will get that out to you as soon as we possibly can. And well, it's just happened there, literally in the last sort of half hour or so. The news is starting to filter through within the wider red top media, if you will, and beyond, because the away fan shutout will continue for the Celtic and Rangers matches. Yep, that's right. You read it there. You're not mistaken. A lot of questions around this one. As we know, we had the continuous, how will we say it? Throwing the toys out the pram after Celtic had years upon years of celebrating in a full Broomloan stand. They weren't quite happy about it. They threw the toys at the pram. There was no away fans, and that continued on. However, we got to the stage where the governing bodies got involved, the broadcasters got involved, because let's face it, here's what happens, isn't it? It's a business, and some people prefer the no away fans thing, but they want atmosphere. It's the Scottish football biggest selling point, and they want it to look, sound, smell, taste the way that it used to do. So it was a 2.5% increase for away fans, and that was enforced by the governing body, the Scottish Leagues, to try and make it. So it was working out about 2,500 fans that you would get at Celtic Park and thereabouts at Ibrox as well. However, it has just broke, as I say, within the last sort of half an hour there, that it's not going to be happening. Celtic have stated there will be no fans at the 1st of September for Rangers at Celtic Park. Now, why is that? The story around it at the moment, the complete details of it, the where's, the why, it's quite wishy-washy. However, the underlying point is that Rangers, we know that they're homeless, if you will, at the moment. They're currently at Hampden. They are sort of tentatively suggesting that they are expecting to be back in Ibrox late September. However, we've all seen those pictures. We've seen the drone footage. We've heard the rumours, everything else in between. My understanding is that it's actually, they were aiming for the end of November. That was coming via various Rangers supporting friends. Yes, I have them, but according to their forums, according to their ITK sort of fan base, they are talking that they expected it to be closer to the end of November. But I think when you see some of those pictures, even that seems a wee bit optimistic, because it's okay getting the work done, but you need to get it signed off and it needs to get checked. So it could well be even as far as the tail end of the season. And certainly with the next game, which was scheduled to be Ibrox at the start of January, that was putting that itself in a lot of doubt. Now, as I say, the reports are a wee bit wishy-washy, but Celtic have basically came forward and says we are not going to be providing that allocation, because we are of the understanding, we are of the belief that that is not going to be able to be reciprocated come January. Now, that's not necessarily talking about whether it's because it's not going to be at Ibrox. As we know, Hampden's pretty straightforward. It's actually a very good stadium in terms of making that allocation and doing it. However, the word is that it is supposed to be to do with safety concerns. Now, the increase in the fan away allocation from that wee tiny non-existent slither that you used to get up to 2,500, that comes with various different situations that have to be addressed from a safety standpoint, and that could be anywhere from logistical things such as the amount of stewarding, the amount of policing that would have to be paid for, but potentially other things in and around the footprint of the stadium. Now, as I say, it has not been clarified exactly what that is. The report itself suggests that Celtic have spent several thousands of pounds getting ready for what's supposed to be at the turn of next month. Rangers coming with 2,500 fans, and Rangers, it would appear, have not held up their side of the bargain. Now, again, Unconfirmed, however, on top of what I've just mentioned of the stewarding, the policing, there's a couple of reports that I've seen and some of the replies on social media. I've seen on some of the forums that there's a suggestion that one of the things that could have and maybe getting implemented is something similar to we see in European football. And the likes of the Bundesliga, but there could be nets, as I say, that's completely unconfirmed. However, regardless of what these sort of safety measures are that are supposed to be or have meant to be have been getting implemented, Rangers at this moment in time have not complied with that. So there you go. It's going to be no fans come the 1st of September at Celtic Park. What do you think of that? Is it another body blow for the mess that is Rangers at this present time? We will get on to the Champions League. That was something I was actually going to do this as a little pre-recorded video. There's a couple of things. You'll have seen the thumbnail as well and another link to Celtic in the form of a midfielder. So I wanted to do this as a little pre-recorded video, but this did pop up. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments. As I said, I'll try and get a lot of these, up in anything that you want to discuss. I'll try and do it whilst I'm here. But as we say, it's very, very interesting. They seem to be going from one disaster to the other, from the stadium to the results on the pitch, and now to this. I see this here. Welcome, Adam Ida. As I say, I'm sitting here. Let me know, is this an official? Have we seen an official post going out? Is that a completely signed, sealed and delivered? 8.5 million, raising it to 9.5. We've spoke about it the other day. Happy days if that is over the line and get them straight out of that team at the weekend. There we go. That's it, confirmed. Love it. Absolutely love it, Paddy. There's my bearded brother coming in to confirm that. I'm sure we're all buzzing about that. Tick. That's another one off the list of things that we need. But back to that, yes, as I says, it's going to be, I'll take it, because I think at this moment in time, as much as I would like to go back to some form of allocation where you get that sort of, that visceral raw emotion that comes with a big massive game like a Celtic Rangers match, I do understand, and we've all seen it, that unfortunately there is an unsavoury element, and more often than not, these recent matches, particularly when you're doing what we're doing and you're swatting them aside, it's just that wee bit sweeter when it's a full house of your own fans and your own people. So there will be no Rangers fans at Celtic Park at the turn of next month. That's only going to be benefiting us, I believe. Well, benefit us fans. There'll be some tickets getting thrown out there. More people will be able to get themselves in the door and enjoy it, but also at a time when Rangers, performance-wise, look to be on a very, very shaky peg. They've just been knocked out of the Champions League. Performances aren't great on the pitch. There's a lot of papering over cracks. There's a lot of just getting by. The fan base, the narrative, the attitude, the atmosphere, it's all changing. They're questioning yet another manager. They're questioning all these fantastic players. Remember the guys that they'd signed during the summer that they were going to win the league back, and 56 is coming home and stuff like that. Those doubts are starting to certainly creep into their mindset, and that's only going to help them, because regardless of what you think of Rangers, regardless of how you think they're playing, 2,500 roaring bears in their corner at Celtic Park was definitely going to be something that would give them a wee shot in the arm. You take that away from them, Celtic do what Celtic have been doing at least recently. If we can get a couple of goals into them, fire it straight into them, there's nobody there to try and pick them up. It's just going to be us more on top of them, more on top of them, more on top of them. So that, for me, I think that's only going to work. That is definitely one for me that I think is going to go on our positive. A full house at Celtic Park, potentially against our wounded Rangers. They don't look, results between now and then don't look guaranteed for them. For me, that's just another positive, isn't it, for getting into that game? Can't wait for it to happen. We'll see how this one pans out as and when more information comes out. But as I say, just to make it aware to yourselves there, you've probably seen it there, but not complying with the safety measures that were agreed. So will this continue on? It was obviously it's been confirmed. Celtic, we're up next. The game's 1st of September, quickly followed by January. So yeah, I totally understand. It has to be the first two, because you can't deprive fans at one end and then come January, we were getting in it's fair. So I understand 2 games, it'll be the status quo as we know it, with only home fans there. Will this rumble on? Will this continue into the remaining 2 fixtures of the season? Well, that's a long way down the line. That remains to be seen. But as we say, it all depends on certain things. Have they not done it because of costing, or have they just not bothered to do it at all? Costing, as we know, we've seen it, we've heard their manager. Costing money, finances, that is a big, massive thing right now for Rangers. So depending on how much these safety measures may well cost, who knows, they might not actually be in a position once they are back in Ibrox to actually, put that in place for what would be the last game against them in this season. So who knows? As we say, we'll see this one, we'll play it by ear, and we'll see how it goes. If there's anything else that comes out with it, we will start to report it. Now, what I want to do is I want to get straight on. There we go. It's good to have you here, brother. There's a Say Celtic Sports podcast. There is lots of Celtic supporting content out there. I thank you for making Celtic World Order at this moment in time and continuously one of your main destinations. But I would encourage everybody, if there's fan media out there, if there's people out there doing what I'm doing right now, talking about Celtic, check it out, support it, because that's what it's all about. It's about collaboration. It's about support, not competition. We're one Celtic family. We want the best. And if you can get as many Celtic sources, as much chat in your life, then, well, that's only going to enrich, isn't it? It's already great being a Celtic fan. But as they say, variety is the spice of life. So from one thing to another, as they say, you've seen that thumbnail there. Want to talk about potential signings. There's been a couple of names that have came around about, and another one that only broke out this morning, and it was Ronan Murphy of Football Transfers has broke out the story about Arne Engels. This one, very interesting. Again, came out of nowhere when I was on the other night there, and I was with Paddy, and I was saying some of the names that had suddenly been thrown out that came out of nowhere. I turned around and asked him, and I asked you the same. How do you feel about this when you're getting linked with people out of nowhere? Because it's been very much famine for us in terms of excitement, in terms of links around about potential new signings, and then boom, Adamida breaks that big fee. You know my thoughts on it. I'm happy. I'm thrilled. The fee we can pay, absolutely. We should be doing that more often. And this is one that could be an example to show why we should be paying higher fees on the reg. Arne Engels, as we always say here at Celtic World Order, my profile on a player. Who is he? What do we know about him? Well, he is a 20-year-old. He'll be 21 in September this year. Belgian central midfielder. He's currently plying his trade over in the Bundesliga with Augsburg, who finished mid-table last year. He's still in contract with him. His contract runs until June 2027. So still a few years on there. But at his age and being something of a rising star, if you will, within the league, it's someone that undoubtedly they're probably going to find hard to keep hold of. Now, when you look at Arne Engels and you look at the profile, we always talk about tick, 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 tick. There's a donation there. Thank you very much to the Celtic World Order, Celtic Supporters podcast. Very kind of you. We appreciate all donations because it just helps keep running this. So thank you very much to you for that wee donation there. It was greatly and well received. As I say, the thing about Arne Engels, with his potential trajectory, he's a guy who's got, much like players at Celtic, he will have a shelf life and he is destined for bigger things. Now, in terms of what has he done with himself, he's previously been on the books at youth level at Club Brugge, to name others. He's had 51 senior appearances during his time, making last season alone 33 in the Bundesliga, in which he scored 3 goals and supplied 5 assists. Now, as I say, he's probably going to be one of those guys that's quite hard for them to keep hold of due to his profile. He's had 100 career appearances all over. Now, obviously, said 51 at senior level, with the remaining being at various youth levels. So, still very much a guy that's in his infancy, but as I say, there's a shelf life in these players, much in the way when we get a guy like Matt O'Reilly, a Hatate. There has been many before that have come in that we've sold on. There is a need to step up to the next level. The Bundesliga is a fantastic league. He's playing at Augsburg, a good side, mid-table. They're not going to be ripping up any trees. They're not going to be getting him into Europe anytime soon. So a team like Celtic, they are a natural progression. Now, again, according to Ronan Murphy of Football Transfers, he seems very much keen, and this has been carried on by our local Mr. Joseph, who has put that out there on social media, also reporting that there's a genuine interest from his side, that if this Celtic interest is solid, that he would want to go and ply his trade, particularly with those 8 Champions League games that are round the corner. Now, talk about money, we talk about fees. What is that going to translate to? Well, his fee, it's not really been set in stone, but his rough transfer value is circa €9 million. So if you bring that back to pounds, they're looking anywhere between sort of £7 million with maybe a maximum up to £9 million. Now, I understand that's obviously a fair fee for a guy who's only going to be turning 21 in September. However, as we have seen, how many times have we looked at certain players, the fee for their age has seemed perhaps high, and we've never really followed through. We've lost out, and then it's the one that got away. You know, how many times have you heard a manager say things along the lines of, I wanted to sign insert big home name, household name here, but we never done it. Giroud, for example. Remember those kind of stories? This could very much be in the same vein as this one here. It's a guy who is at a stage in his career where you can go to him and you can get him for a decent fee. Now, again, it's just estimates to say around about the £7 million, but I think if Celtic were to go in and they were to go in around about that £6 million and gave a more healthy sell-on and or incentive-based clip-ons, I think that we would begin in, but it's about getting in there early. You heard me talking about Celtic's transfer strategy the other day, didn't you? You heard me saying about it pays to be proactive rather than reactive. Now, that's what I done when I said that the Ida deal was perhaps bad business. I wasn't saying it was bad business in terms of his quality, what he brings to the side. I was just saying hindsight is a great thing, but if we had been more forward thinking, if we trusted the manager, if we had gave ourselves an earliest opportunity to make an approach for Ida rather than at the 11th hour late on in January, you can set wheels in motion, you can build deals, you can negotiate, and you can get yourself a player at the best terms that suit you. If Celtic are interested in this guy, they need to get in right now. They need to start acting. They need to start putting it out the feelers to try and get any deal round the table, let alone over the line. That's what I want to see, because also, given his profile, he's very highly thought of in the German football scene. And he's a guy that, see, if you don't sign him now, when his price, it might seem lofty for his age, but if you don't get him now, he will be one in a season, 2 seasons down the line, you simply cannot afford. So Celtic, if you want to level up, if you want to get in, as the manager says, quality, then for me, that is exactly the kind of guy that we should be looking at. Of course, he's also burst onto the under scene in Belgium. He's not quite a full cap yet, but he has 30 caps right up to under 21 level. So he's very much a guy whose trajectory is only going to go on the up and the up and up. Type of player profile. Well, it says there, is he the new O'Reilly? Slightly different in the way that he plays. He maybe doesn't have that, overall twinkling feet that an O'Reilly has, but in terms of what he brings and how dynamic he is, he's certainly not far off it. He's a lot closer to O'Reilly than certainly a Bernardo, Hatate or McGregor. As I say, take that as you find it. I'm not sitting here and claiming to be some sort of German football expert. I'm just telling you what I know based on the brief sort of videos that I've seen of him and what I've read about him in order to get ourselves to this point to talk about him. So very, very interesting. Now, the O'Reilly thing, the reports are coming in again, mixed reports. I'm sure you've seen it last night. Hard to believe, isn't it? I've always sort of consigned myself that I thought that he was potentially going to be, or will be eventually this window, unfortunately, one of the ones that we lose. Now, as I've said time and time again, if we are interested in Arne Engels, we shouldn't be waiting for O'Reilly to be sold. Get him in And then it just makes it easier that, if you are intending to sell O'Reilly, you've got someone in situ, natural succession, you're ready to build. Some people are saying that any move for him would be dependent on that. However, I say it time and time again on this channel, look at our finances, look at what we have got in the bank, look at the reserves, and between the Ida deal, Sinisalo, Schmeichel, and Bernardo, we haven't actually really cut into any of the profit laying over from last season for that 23-24 period. There was around about £20 million in profit from player trading. Plus, we've sold a lot of guys in the form of Haksabanovic, Lal, etc., etc. So we're probably closer, just in player trading alone, around about £30 million between last season and the summer here. So there's no reason why we can't do that. There is absolutely no reason why we can't go out there and sign this guy if we are serious and if he is genuinely a name that we're interested in getting in the door. There is no reason why we can't go out there, no reason why we can't get him in the door. And then if O'Reilly goes, the likes of ourselves as fans, you would be gutted to see it going, but you would also have something tangible to say, well, we've spent, say, £7 million on this guy. That was forward planning. That was progression. That was succession planning. So, yeah, get him in. That's one thing there. And in terms of the transfers, that's pretty much all we've got. So the other one as well that we were going to come away with, and I'm sure he said, oh, look at this smile. I'm a wee bit of a spring in my step today. I don't know what it is. You know what I mean? Was there a game on last night? That's right, there wasn't there? Because it was the Champions League qualifiers and our nearest rivals. The people that were going to be world beaters couldn't beat Kiev because they're out 2-0. And it's all the blame in Italian referee, apparently. I don't know. I watched the first game, I watched the second game, but I thought some of the garbage football on show might have been something to do with that result. But, listen, joking aside, I know red cards do change games. However, what I would say is I never thought at any point that Rangers were batting down that door and that they were going to dispatch Kiev with ease. Certainly made it a wee bit harder for them as the game gets stretched, but boo-hoo. It wasn't too dissimilar to some of the absolute shocking sendings offs that Celtic have been on the end of for, seasons upon seasons in Europe. So it is what it is, as Paddy says. But, yes, there is many buts and there's many excuses around this one. So Champions League, let's get down to business about our Champions League and what does that result last night mean for Celtic moving forward in the Champions League? Well, of course, there's no change because as champions, we're straight in the door. We don't need to worry a jot about what the outcome of that is. However, with Rangers going out, Celtic will get a slightly increased cut from Champions League because, as we know, there's allocated positions per country that can qualify, a prize fund, a prize pot, whatever you want to call it. And that's the biggest amount obviously will be given to Celtic, and then there's potential that could go to Rangers for, winning games and qualifying, TV rights, etc., where there might be splits. Celtic could be onto a slightly larger slice of pie. It's not, I'm not going to say negligible, it's not going to be fortunes, but it'll be, a couple of million here or there. So that is always benefit. Thank you very much, Rangers. I think you've paid for at least maybe a third, if not half, of Adam Ida. Happy days. I'm sure your fans are buzzing about that, but we'll take it gladly. We've been taking all your presents to the coefficient points for seasons anyway, so we might as well take some of that free money as well. Exactly 420. Cheers for the extra 4 million. Absolutely beautiful stuff. Get the comments in. As I say, it's going like a fair. They're fast and furious. I'm trying my best to juggle here, there, and everywhere, but let's get through it. So, as we say, Celtic will now find ourselves into pot 3. So some people will be turning around and saying to themselves, great one, pot 3. However, the reality is it only has a very, very, very slight effect for the positive for Celtic, really, because the way the new format is, it's a 36-team league. You'll play 4 home games, you'll play 4 away games, and you'll play basically 2 teams from each pot. So pot 1, 2, 3, and 4. So we go into pot 3. So if you want to look at it in that terms, the only benefit is that you are one of the pot 3 teams. So you essentially remove one potentially difficult team that you could get drawn about. But there's still going to be several top class teams sitting around you that you can draw. So it's only a minute benefit of being in pot 3. That's it. It just means that you take up a place of what could have been another better quality team. One less that you might have to trip up on. That's the format there. In terms of the key dates that you need to know regarding that, the draw will take place on the 29th of this month. However, you will not know what the actual match days are in terms of the dates, the times, and that kind of stuff, logistical, until a couple of days later, either the 31st of the month or the 1st of next month. They'll get those out, and that's just for logistical stuff, as I say, because obviously there's other draws, and they've got to look at sort of things, like clashes of fans. They can't have different sets of fans in the same sort of city and all that kind of garbage. However, the interesting thing is the way that it's going to work with this draw, unlike the days gone by where it was the old ball Celtic and then swirling about and picking it out, what will basically happen is they will auto-generate it via a computer. So it'll be draw come out, boom, Celtic, and then instantly the computer will auto-generate, doof, there's your 8 games that you're going to play. 8 games, 4 home, 4 away, and that's it. The next couple of days, it will tell you the dates, the times, and everything else that you need to know. So that's one to keep your eye on. Very interesting. Looking forward to that, obviously. It'll be interesting to see who gets over the line in the remaining sort of playoff stage, if you will. But as we say, it's irrelevant. Celtic find themselves now into pot 3, and, well, Rangers are going to be in no pot. Used to be the wee ball, not Rangers, but you don't need to worry about that. We're not going to see that anytime. So in terms of that, just before I go, as I say, I just wanted to do a wee quick pop-up. Thank you everybody for getting involved. Thank you for the kind donations that have been made there during the course of the feed. What's your thoughts on the Champions League? What is your ambitions? Try and get up a couple of comments, hit me with them. We'll do a couple of minutes here if you want and talk about it. Potless, exactly, no pot. And should this what we should be targeting? Should be targeting 12 points. 10 should be easy enough. Well, it's actually a really, really good point, because as we say, you're playing 2 teams in pot 4, 2 in the same pot as you. But the idea of this new league format is to give you more of a fighting chance, that you'll be playing teams that are off your level and, give you a chance to win more games. So straight away, you don't know who you're going to get, but you would like to think that you can take the best bit of 46 points from the pot 4 teams, or not, of all 6 points. And then I would definitely say as well, the teams that are in and around you, it should be off a similar level. Again, you should be looking to take, 4 to 6 points there. So if you look at your games in your pot 2, your pot 3, and your pot 4, if I'm saying 46 games, that's it, 46 points, that's anywhere between 8 to 12 points. That's pretty handsome. You think of that, like, in most cases in a Champions League run, depending on what group you got, you could be getting through there. You could be getting through with 8 points. You'd certainly get through on 12. So it's something that we really need to be aiming for. And I think as well, this new look Champions League, this is why we really need to, that's why we as fans are shouting out for the investment. This is why we are crying out, getting frustrated about all this money that's sitting there. It's about trying to level up. The money's great at the front end, but then on top of the amount of money that they'll generate just by the package for the fans, which is probably going to be about 180, 200 pounds. There's all that. But then as you go into this tournament, if you win matches, you're about £2 million for a win, about 900 grand for a draw. So just think of that there. If you could get yourself, 8 points out of that, if you're talking about you want Arne Engels, that pays for him. That's the way Celtic need to be looking at this Champions League. We need to be looking at it and saying, spend at the front end, because it should make the domestic games that little bit more easy. Now, there's no guarantees, of course, but it should make those domestic, bread and butter that wee bit more easier if you get more quality, which will just give you more guaranteed chance to get to the latter stages or direct entry a Champions League, I know would have to qualify. But when you get to the playoff stage, if you've got better quality to begin with, it gives you a better chance to get through that, to get the money for the Champions League qualification, and so on and so forth. And if you can build on that steadily, season to season to season, and look at the spending as being, you know what, we're putting an outlay here, but between everything that's coming with the money coming in, tickets, merchandise and everything, off the Champions League, TV money, we can get some points on the board here. We can claw it back that way. That is how we're going to do it. That's why we're investing. And that is exactly what Celtic should be doing. We should be looking at spending to try and make a dent. Now, I've said, what is a dent? Is a dent set? Look, it's not going to be quarterfinals. It's not going to be semi-finals. It's not going to be winning it, for crying out loud. Let's get real. But get yourself into the knockout phase, because once it comes to a knockout phase, it becomes a complete and utter round robin. Yeah, you could get an absolute stinking team, but you might just get a favourable draw. It's about generating enough points to get through. And with 8 games here. Welcome to CWO Podcast. Thank you very much. Greatly appreciated, as always. If it's not making sense, Big Red, listen, I know it's a service I provide. I try my best. But no, we should be looking at it. As I say, a win alone's getting you about £2 million. You would like to think being the word there, that you get 2 wins against your pot 4 teams minimum. There's £4 million. That's half of one of these signings I'm talking about. That's paying it back straight away. That's the way we need to be thinking. It's about being progressive to try and get ourselves on there. And particularly when we find ourselves with Rangers in the situation that they are no longer in there, and they'll be playing the Thursday night football and doing that Thursday, Sunday schedule that nobody wants to actually have to deal with. We heard their manager last night. Make no bones about it. They have a lot of sort of things that they need to address. The finances around that stadium, the overheads for rent in Hampden, and everything else in between. The interesting thing as well is, how is this shut out of fans because of the non-compliance with the safety measures for the away fans? How's that potentially going to affect our deal with Sky Sports, with the broadcasters? Because that's what they've paid for. And if they can't get it, will there be repercussions there? Will there be fines? If that was to be found, it solely fell at the door of Rangers. Would they get any sanctions there? I'm not saying they will. I'm asking as a question, because they've paid for a product, and if one team can't provide that product, as we've seen with Dundee couldn't provide the product by putting on a game, they were sanctioned. So if the agreement has been, you will be able to provide safely 2,500 fans in your stadium for that match, and you can't do it, are you going to get penalised? Interesting, as I say. I'm not holding my breath on that one, but just another wee thing to think about. Well, anyway, listen, I've just went over half an hour there. As I say, it's a wee pop-up video, a wee impromptu number there, just to try and get things up and fire out some things. It was absolutely buzzing there, a lot of you in there. Thank you for new membership. Thank you for the donation. Greatly appreciated. Before I go, usually say at the start, but I'll say at the end, if you like what you're seeing here at Celtic World Order Podcast, give us a wee thumbs up. Most importantly, make sure you hit the subscribe button below. That way, every time we do one of these live videos or we do an upload, you'll get notified. You won't miss a single beat. If you want to help support the channel, as you've seen there, you can donate. It's completely optional, because all our content is and will remain completely free. It's the same cost as a Rangers transfer. Absolutely nothing. However, if you want to help with run the channel, because even though everything's free to you, it costs us to put it together, you can do that by way of joining the membership button. As I say, completely optional. It's up to yourself. And once we hit that threshold of income from YouTube, as I say, we are going to be firing it straight back out there to you in ways of giveaways and the likes, because as we say, we do this for passion and for pleasure, not to line our pockets. We have no interest in that. If you want to connect with us, lastly, we're also on X at CWOPod 1888. And you can listen to all the chatter that myself, Paddy, Josh and everybody else does on the channel there as well. So listen, I'm going to get myself away. We'll see how these stories pan out. Continue to let us know what you think in the comments on the video. And as we always try to do, we'll try our best to reply to as many to them. We really, really appreciate the engagement. So until the next time, till the next video, take care of yourself. And as always, hail, hail.
Yes, sir!